This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the next episode of the Locksport 3D printing series. Today I thought I'd cover storage pinning trays. There's a few varieties of them that I found out there. There's ones with hinges, there's ones with cases, and there's other ones with sliding lids. So we'll cover the hinged ones first. So I wanted to start with this particular, all the files I get off of Thingiverse, by the way, and I will provide links at the bottom of the screen here to each of the items I'm showing you. This first one I want to show you is one that I do not recommend, so I'm trying to help people save their time, their materials, and their headaches. This tray here utilizes a double hinge type setup. I didn't care for this, and I'll explain why in a moment, because otherwise this was a pretty nice tray. It does include some nice deep slots. I do find with all of these trays that fold like this with a hinge, you really need to put some kind of padding of some kind in here so that it holds your pins in place and they don't skip around to different channels within the tray. But what I didn't like about this was the hinging mechanism they built into this. It just was a very poor design in that what they expect you to do is take these little pins here. Let me put them in my hand. They expect you to take these little pins that are printed on your printer. They're made from PLA. And unfortunately, as you can see with this pin, they just snap very easily off and break if you try to push them into the hinges. I've tried reprinting these things. I've tried filing the actual pin down just a little bit to try and get a better, easier fit. But I just found that they didn't work well for me anyways. And I just decided to just give up on this tray and say forget it. I'm sure you could probably come up with something else to put into these hinges, maybe a screw or something, and that's definitely an option should you choose to pursue it. I just found there were better options to work with than working with this one. The next option is a step up, but still I can't recommend it unless you're willing to work with it, but it's got a much better hinge mechanism. When you do print this, you're printing it flat, because essentially you're going to take an X-Acto knife and free up these hinges, and once they're free, the hinge works really pretty well. Has the same problem with this area being open. You need to put some kind of pad in there to help hold your pins in place. The design around this was based on these holes that it puts into the corners of each side of the tray. The intention there is for you to glue in there a button cell sized magnet. The problem is that a lot of these little button cell magnets, they have a nickel coating on them, and essentially they don't bond well with regular glues to the PLA or to plastics. What I did find works somewhat okay is this Loctite 480 instant adhesive. I'm going to tell you right now, this little bottle is not cheap, but it did work to secure these magnets in, but it did not work with these, and I've tried cleaning out these multiple times and the magnets and re-gluing them, and they just did not want to stay. So it's kind of hit or miss with getting this bonding or adhesion to work. But the concept is that the magnets help snap the lid shut and keep it from opening, so what you have stored in here doesn't wind up falling out. Nice tray. I just wish this part of it could be worked out better. And if anybody has a suggestion on something else to try, I'm all ears. So the option I did like a lot, this has a similar hinge type setup. I do like this quite a bit. The hinges work really well. You still have to, once it's printed, you have to do a little bit of work with an X-Acto knife to cut out the spots on here to get the hinge to free up, and then once you do, it does work rather nicely. Same problem as the other trays. You need to put something in here in order to keep your pins all in place once they're in the tray. What I like about this one over the other ones is it does have a tab-based latch. which once closed, it snaps shut, and then it will not open. Just will not open until you actually go to pull it open. So it's a great option for storing your pins. They do have a smaller version of that in this. Same hinge design, works exceptionally well. It does offer one less channel for storing pins in. Same problem here, you need to put some kind of padding or something in here to help hold the pins in. But it does have the same latching mechanism. I will tell you that I tried to file this tab just a little bit to make the hinge work a little bit, or not the hinge, but the tab to work a little bit better. And I took off just a little bit too much, and it doesn't want to snap shut anymore. So I'll probably just print another one of these and be a little bit more careful on filing that down if I need to, so that it snaps shut and it opens up easily. Because one thing you don't want to do is have a latch that is going to require a bit of force to get open and wind up popping it open and having your pins fly everywhere. So you do want it to have a much better, close and open like this one does. It's a lot easier to work with. So anyways, that covers the folding trays. Nice options. I may print another one or two of these for myself, but definitely something to take a look at if you like the idea of having a folding storage tray like this. Next, we'll get into the trays that go into a case. All right, so with the pinning trays that work with a shell or a case, these are nice, a nice option. This comes from one download for Thingiverse. And what I like about these is these cases here, you can slide your tray in. They stay in there nicely. You essentially push out the tray from the little slot back here, and then you can pull your tray free. It does come with this option here, which is a pinning tray with some extra spaces to store extra parts, whatever. What I didn't like about this, and that I've heard other people complain about, is that when you put the pins into the slots, taking them out with the tweezers can be somewhat of a challenge. It's not impossible, but it definitely is not. You have to have a steady hand and be able to get your tweezers just in the notch that goes across the pin so that you can get them out of there just fine. What I did want to mention was on these trays, they have these little tabs that get printed that are compressible. That helps it stay in the case perfectly. However, what I noticed was these come out into your slicer program on there's like that. You need to turn them and put them flat in order to get a really good print of the tray. Now the opposite is true. This comes out, the shell comes out, or the case comes out like this. Do not try printing it like that. It will not come out well. So do definitely print it on its side like this and it'll print fine. What you do want to do, however, is increase this axis, the Z, and increase it just by 1%. And then these trays, they're all universal. These trays will then fit in there without any issue. They'll slide in, they'll clip in, they'll stay put. If you don't add that 1%, they're really rough getting them in and out of the case. So that being said, there's an all pins option for the tray as well, which is nice. There's a disc detainer version that you can print as well. And then there's this just blank that you can store anything in, essentially. And in my case, I just decided to go ahead and print a case for each one of these because I couldn't see myself needing more than these three, in all honesty, with what I do work on. Perhaps in the future I might print some more of them, but this is all I really needed for my use. I think this is a great option. I like them. They do take a little while to print, but well worth it once they're printed. And if you do the alteration to printing the case by increasing the Z by 1%, you'll have a perfect fit on all of these trays. And we'll move on to the sliding lid trays. Okay, so obviously a lot of these storage pinning trays the different options. They're all good for if you're doing progressive pinning, or if you're just taking the lock apart and you want to leave it apart and store it for a little while and get back to it, however you want to use them. These trays, however, are perfect for storing pins, like when you're doing progressive pinning. So these tops slide off. These channels, there's 6 of them that you can store pins in. And when you put your pins back in here in order, however you're going to do that, you can then store them, put these aside, and you've got your pins safely put somewhere. Now, if you really want to protect against the lid potentially sliding open, you could put a piece of tape around it or something. I've tried printing this lid at 1% more, and then it just simply did not want to fit properly anymore. So you can give it a try yourself, of course, but I did not have any luck getting it to resize the lid so that it would fit more tightly. Now, this is the default. In order for me to get the trays to fit the lids that it did come with, I did have to change this tray because you need to print it in that orientation flat. I did have to change the x-axis to make them 1% wider, and then these actual lids then fit, just like they do, like you see here now. You do not need to change the lids at all, but it's just kind of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you don't increase the tray size by 1% X, then your lids won't slide on without having to file the sides of the lids down. Now, if you increase it by 1x, the lids will fit on and slide in place and fit in the grooves properly, but increasing the lid size again defeats the purpose of widening the tray itself, so it just doesn't make any sense. Now, what I did notice about these, they're not great for storing dimple lock pins. However, you can modify these trays to handle dimple lock pins. These trays here, what I did was I went with printing this tray. I increased the 1% on X, but I increased the Z by 25%, and then these now perfectly store dimple lock pins in them just fine. I'm using one right now to store my pins for a multi-lock. Here we go. So it's storing the parts while I'm progressively pinning it right now. And these are nicely stored in here. They don't shift around. But that's how I'm keeping track of my pins while I'm working on the multi-lock interactive. Anyways, that's this episode. Of course, there's other options out there. I'm sure these are the ones that I chose to pick up and give a try myself. I thought I would share them with you and share how I changed them to make better use of them. If you have any suggestions on other trays I could take a look at, I'm open to hearing about that in the comments. Please provide a link if you can. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Perhaps maybe you found something of use or interest. But I want to thank you for watching. As always, if you are a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on the video. And thank you for watching.